Center for Innovation and Technology is offering you a golden opportunity to speak directly to your market at an affordable price. We also offer media training workshops, live streaming, documentary production, and events management. Get in touch with us today on the following numbers: +263 867 711 0290 or 0718 100 235. Don't forget to subscribe to our social media platforms. Like our Facebook page, Center for Innovation and Technology. Follow us on Twitter @SiteZW. And you can also check out our website, www.site.org.zw.
Ask the fundamental question, how does an economy grow? What do we expect to see, and what are the indicators of the growth of an economy? So the growth of an economy simply means that an increase in the amount of output that is produced by a particular economy, either measured in monetary terms or measured in general output terms of goods and services produced. Now, I want you to think this is very important because it allows us to understand the situation that we find ourselves in as Zimbabweans. I want us to consider, suppose you have a general family unit that is living on a piece of land, father, mother, and children. There are ways in which you can grow the output of this household, but as economists, what we understand is that the normal or general, I don't want to say the only ways that we know that you could grow your output as a household, first of all, is probably an increase in the resources that you have. So an increase in the number of children, an increase in the size of the land that you have, and so on. And you can also grow your resources if maybe one of your neighbors is not using their land and they give it to you to use as an extra piece of land. That is a form of capital that someone has saved that can be reintroduced into your business or into your household so that you can grow more crop or grow more output. And the third way in which you can grow produce or an economy is through trade, which requires specialization. What do we mean by this? Well, we say maybe we're not very good at producing maize at our household. We should just focus on producing groundnuts on the conviction or on the understanding that on Dube next door they're going to produce maize because they are better at it, and then we trade. So trade allows those who are good at what they do to produce what it is that they are good at. This means that the overall benefit for the both of us is going to be very high because we produce groundnuts to superb quality and at high quantity. When they produce maize to superb quality and to high quality. If we are tempted with Tina and others do a bit of groundnuts, would have problems because our quality will not be as good. So trade allows us to benefit fully as a society. So these are the three ways in which general economies grow. Through an increase in resources that are available, an increase in capital that is available, including capital development, and an increase in trade. So every time, in all situations, economies attempt to do this. Now, the main catalyst when all this is happening is that of what we call liquid money. Now, in Zimbabwe, there is a high fixation on money, the currency, and so on. But I want to first explain what it is. What is money? You have to realize that money is legal fiction. I know, but money is not real. It cannot be real. It has to be unreal, particularly the modern money that we speak of. Why? When money started, it started as a representation of assets that we had, that were stored in a particular place. And then because we could not move around carrying our cows, a paper was written that this person has got cows in a particular place, and you can trust me, the cows are there. So whatever they ask for, can you give them based on this paper that I have signed, that the cows are with me, which is what we called legal tender. This is how money began. And for a long time, it was based on gold, and but it started to become restrictive because it started stopping the ability to produce for the future. What do I mean by this? It meant that as long as we did not have the same amount of gold equaling our aspirations, it was not going to be possible for us to progress. So we always needed to have gold in order to have money. Then some people realize that no, this is not functional. It stops growth because our growth is going to be limited by what is naturally given by God. But we've got bigger aspirations than that. Then came the introduction of fiat money. fiat money that is based on technically nothing, but the trust that tomorrow is going to be a better day. It is based on trust that as a society we're going to be able to produce whatever it is that we put our money to the value of altogether. So there is no such thing as fake money, bond money, and so on. Money is a representation of how much you trust your institutions. The idea that tomorrow will be a better day. So it was very important, because through this we're able to bring in a very, very significant component to economic growth, which is called credit. And through credit, we are now able to bank on our future and say, we as Zimbabweans are hardworking people. Borrow us so much, and we promise that we're going to create goods and services to that particular value. And this allows for economic growth. So essentially, that is what money really is. And money is a representation of trust. So we moved away from the gold billion idea, and the new game in town is confidence and trust. That is what really backs all the monies in the world, including the United States dollar that we love so much. The US has got the highest debt on the planet, about I don't know how many trillions. But because we trust that it is going to be better in the US tomorrow, we continue to believe that their money is better. So money is a signifier of how much we trust ourselves and the society. Now, so what has happened in this idea of the economic growth and money over the years? Initially, in the normal household that I spoke to you about, where you have got a father, mother living on a piece of land, you realize that capital, labor, and the land were all joined in that family. They were working together to ensure that they survive. So it was impossible for these people to be poor so long as they were able to work. You see? So long as they were able to work, they had their land and they had their labor. They could do whatever it is that they wanted. Then something happened after the Industrial Revolution. There was a break between the factors of production. And a new factor of production comes up, which we call entrepreneurship. Land suddenly was alone, usually controlled by the state. Capital stood alone, and labor stood alone. What did this mean? All the factors now attempted to exploit or relate to each other in a particular way. And what happened is, as capital stood alone, it became very, very powerful and had a serious ability to impact or influence labor, which we saw in the development of capitalism. Development of capitalism that we talk of today became so terrible because there was no regard for human life so long as we could make a profit. This brings in the role of government in any economy, which allows us now to have what we call a mixed society, which is the capital side and the government side. But what is even more interesting, labor is never spoken of in this case. So labor is either at the mercy of the capitalist who wants to make a profit, or is begging government for protection from the capitalist. This is what the Industrial Revolution split did. So it left labor very vulnerable. So what you see now is labor that does not take responsibility for itself. Initially, we had labor that was united with all factors of production and working through the entire process. So most economic problems which we are trying to remedy all over the world are actually emanating from this, from labor that has become very weak. And the first solution to try and deal with that was unionism, where they said, okay, let's come together and try and fight the capitalists when they bother us and try and lobby the government when we need something. But this is, in most cases, not, in some cases it has proved useful. But the bottom line is, we now have labor that is not very, very responsible for its own development. So what do we see? In the case of Zimbabwe, where you have got a very powerful state, you will naturally see labor, in most cases, imploring the state for a better life, isn't it? In the case of industrial economies such as South Africa, where capital is very strong, you will naturally see labor castigating capital for better lives. But very limited situations where labor attempts to improve its own life. This has been a fundamental economic problem that we've been facing. Now, these three ideas that I have brought about are meant to check your memories, to check your thinking, and try and think about the society that we live in, which we call Zimbabwe, particularly with respect to economic growth. Where are we? So we are in a country that we have called Zimbabwe, a country, as Usmanda well put, was founded by visionaries who we called Rhodesians, visionaries who pushed ideas and created the society that we live in. But one thing that we have to understand is that these people are gone in most cases. And I don't think they're coming back. So we have a situation where we had people who had a vision for a society, a vision for a country that was supposed to move in a particular direction. And Spanda explained that they noticed that gold was not viable. They pushed this vision in accordance with agriculture. And in their vision, they needed instruments, blunt instruments to carry out this vision, which, as I've already explained, is the non-responsible labor. So for a very long time in the Rhodesian society, the native Africans have been labor. This is what we understand very well. We know this very well, and we pride ourselves in this, in being the cannon fodder and the labor. Very limited times have we been the visionaries of determining and charting the future of our society. So what does this mean? We have been mostly interested in income rather than in wealth. Income is very different from wealth. Income is what you get every time as a salary. Yeah? Wealth is what you put aside. That which you use and save, and which you do not use at that particular time, is what we call wealth. This was usually left to the visionaries, while the African natives prided themselves in the levels of income that they were earning. This was problematic in the Rhodesia that we faced. Now, what happened? We transitioned to Rhodesia, to Zimbabwe from Rhodesia. And at this point, suddenly, we were thrust as native Africans in a situation where we were supposed to take responsibility for our own future, where we were supposed to plan ahead for what was to come, where we were supposed to develop our society in an attempt to unify the factors of production so that we have a better society. But I think the previous speaker has already noted this. It did not happen as much as we wanted. We failed to make that leap from a section of people who become visionaries and those who become labor. The visionaries left, and as a result, most of us in our discussion do not speak of a better future, do not speak of a chance of us Zimbabweans being strong and productive and able to produce for the future, but we point to the past. We point strongly to the past, and we believe that tomorrow is most likely going to be worse than today. Yesterday was much better. What does that mean? It means that we cannot have a society where in any way you can have a currency because you do not trust yourself. I've already explained that the currency is highly hinged on trust. It is fiat money. So if you have a society that does not have trust in the future, it will not have credit, it will not grow. So this is a fundamental challenge that we have. It is a fundamental challenge that we have, and in most cases it is blamed on broad-based or higher order ideas such as poor governance, corruption, and so on. But now, I challenge that idea. Are these really higher order ideas, those of poor governance, corruption, and so on? How many of us here have never changed money or Matabeleland? Show by hand if you have never done it. How many of us do not believe that violence is the way forward, particularly at home, if my child does not understand? So you'll notice that we speak of societies that seem not to be reflected in our micro level, where at home violence is the best way forward. It is not unwise or unheard of to hear saying no for child. This is how we believe. This is how our society is rooted. It is not uncommon to hear people say, the best way it is or Wednesday. So we see these things happening at the micro level, and naturally they escalate to the higher level. But as soon as they get to the higher level, we who practice it at the micro level begin to complain. So we should ask ourselves, he said European societies had fundamental roots that developed with them. In European societies, maybe it was acceptable to question your father, to do this and that and say, no, we do not want this, daddy, no, this and that. But is it acceptable in our society? Does it happen at home? If it doesn't happen at home, it is most likely not going to happen at the higher levels. So when we debate ideas of governance, I always implore us to look at them from the general perspectives of where we live as families. Is the governance a reflection of who we are, or a reflection of what we hope for, but not necessarily not what we are? We have to think about these things, particularly when we consider chances of reviving our economy. Now, in the case of Bulawayo, I'm sorry, maybe I will speak a bit too fast, but I don't have much time. We are a representation of an entire nation. We're a representation of an entire economy. And I've already explained that we've got serious challenges when it comes to confidence. We've got serious challenges when it comes to issues of economic growth, particularly because of the confidence issue that I've highlighted. But we have a very interesting case where we have got a powerful, radiant and beautiful culture in Bulawayo. A culture that to this day has been not very well monetized, such that we do not realize any revenue from it. But the question is, do we have the visionaries who have got the ability to do that? Or we've got people who are constantly looking in the past to get visionaries from the past to come and do that? That is a very fundamental question. And what has this done? Because of this beautiful culture, because of the good name that Bulawayo has, we have an opportunity to actually monetize that in the same way the Dutch did. The Dutch were a very small nation in Europe, but because they were trustworthy, they had a good name, they were able to secure so many loans. And they were the first settlers of the Matabeleland in New York because of that. We also have something like that, but I think we have not managed to monetize it and allow it to see us deriving some serious economic benefits from it. And then this is coupled with another challenge that we face again, where we discuss ideas of marginalization, we discuss ideas of being left out, we discuss ideas of not being part of the mainstream, and we ask the questions, but why are we like this? And this has pushed us in directions of claiming or clamoring for devolution and so on. Now, I'm not saying devolution is wrong, I'm not saying devolution is right, but what I'm saying is I think we should debate devolution. So because of the growth challenges and the issues that I have highlighted, we now say, let us devolve our society. But before we devolve our society, I want us to understand something. Are we proud to be people of Bulawayo? These are fundamental questions that we should ask ourselves. Are we proud to be people of Bulawayo, first of all? Do we have the visionaries to make Bulawayo a better place for the future? Not pointing to the past of Bulawayo, which was not created by us. Thirdly, do we believe that we can stand toe-to-toe with everyone else? Now, I ask these questions because I have a serious problem with some of the things that I see in Bulawayo. I worry that for a very long time, we've always believed ourselves, I don't want to say inferior, but we've always believed ourselves, I'm trying to find a good word that will not be offensive, not necessarily second-class citizens. Before that, there is an idea that we come from South Africa. There is an idea that we come from South Africa, which is instilled culturally from the stratified society that we had as Ndebele, where at the top were people of foreign descent who were of Guni descent and Abezanzism. And it was a good thing to be Umuntu Ezanzi. And the only thing that you thought of as Umuntu was downstairs was one day to be part of Abezanzi. So this permeates our society even today, where we really believe that we are part of this idea of Abezanzi in South Africa. And what has it done? It has made sure that our culture and our beautiful, radiant ideas do not develop, because there will always be second class to what comes from South Africa. It has made sure that we spend an entire fortune attempting to be like someone else when we can actually be ourselves as people of Bulawayo. Not everyone does this, by the way, but it is a fundamental question that we should ask. Do we know who we are? And do we know where we are going? See? And then second, we come to say, because of this situation, because of the past, therefore we should be second-class citizens. Where are we first-class citizens, therefore? And whose duty is it to create this place where we're first-class citizens? It's a very, very important question. And what has it resulted in? It has resulted in a situation where we feel less Zimbabwean, where it has questioned the national project, where we are not sure if we sing the same national anthem, and where we actually glorify division instead of unity. I want to say these things before I discuss devolution, because they are very critical. The only reason why the human animal is so powerful is through the ability to cooperate. So if you fail to cooperate, you are guaranteed that you are not going to do much. So what has happened, therefore? We then say, no, maybe we should find power in our pluralness. It is not wrong to be tribalistic. It is not wrong to be overly fanatical about who you are. It is actually a good thing. It is actually a good thing to celebrate who you are, to celebrate your tribe, to celebrate where you come from. But it becomes a challenge when you problematize it. And it becomes a challenge when it is the main motivation that is pushing you towards a situation where you are not cooperating, which I'm not saying is the motivation. So because of this, I want to have a quick discussion. I've got about 5 minutes to go, about the pros and cons of a situation where we devolve our society through the process of devolution, which by the way is already in play, even though we do not have an act yet. Devolution, as I've already highlighted, is on the spectrum of decentralization, where we want various powers to be given to the provinces of Zimbabwe. And every time when we think of this, we should be wondering, is it a uniting tool or a dividing tool? Is it what we want, or it is halfway to secession? And is that a good thing? All these things should be debated. Now, what do we know about what we've been saying? A lot has been discussed, but particularly from the political devolution side, where we, Busa and so on. Very few people discuss the fiscal devolution. Very few people discuss the social devolution. What does it mean when everyone can now come and live in a particular place because it is prosperous, regardless of tribe, regardless of racial origin, and so on? What we know, we expect that it will result in better satisfaction of needs because we are now closer to local government and we can clearly tell them what we want. We expect that it is going to reduce levels of corruption because we can now hold people accountable directly. We also expect that it is going to result in a responsive local government because they are closer to us again, and we also expect to see it allowing for more transparency. These are the ideas which are debated very much in the public arena. And then some people throw in the idea that now we are going to have access to our own resources. Now we are going to, but how does that really come through? Because if through devolution and full devolution, we are supposed to collect our own taxes and we are supposed to do our own things, what could be the challenges that could come from that? Now, can you imagine if a company wanted to set up business in a devolved Zimbabwe? Zimbabwe is our country for all of us. In a devolved Zimbabwe, this company wants to set up a business, and it's a big multinational corporation, and they already know that there are different provinces in this country. How long before they start manipulating province against province, so that at the end of the day, they are the ones who benefit? It becomes a challenge. So we have to ensure that we understand that it is not a rat race to the bottom, where at the end the nation suffers and the company benefits. Now there is a question that was asked by Oba Bunyati earlier on about the situation in Fazak, which I think is very similar to this. I think retailers in some cases have taken the consumers for a ride. They know that they can do anything so long as they point the finger at government. So as long as they can point the finger at government, then we will just focus on government and they'll overprice and no one will say anything. Where I think civil society should come in and actually ensure that such things do not happen. Second one, tax autonomy. What does it mean about those places that naturally have got a very low tax base? For instance, Smart North, where the people or the rural provinces, Mad South, because devolution means Bulawayo, Mad North, Mad South, Basingo will be different provinces with different tax bases. Are we saying the collection of taxes is going to be the same? So does it mean that those people who naturally have got a higher tax base stand to benefit in comparison to those that do not? We also have got serious challenges where we are likely to have provincial inequality based on the size of the conversion engines in play. It is naturally expected that the place that has got the biggest conversion engine of assets is likely going to be the province that becomes the dominant one. We see this in devolved societies like South Africa. We see this in devolved society like the United Kingdom. We saw this even in situations where there was the Federation of Rhodesia and Nyasaland. The place which they are with the heart of economic activity naturally develops the most. What does this mean in our case? Does it mean we are allowing certain provinces to become bigger than others, to dictate the state of affairs of regions and countries? We have to think about things like this. And don't we risk a situation where those bigger provinces have undue influence on the rest of the state? So, and when we share these resources of devolution, do we have a formula that we are going to use? How is it going to be determined? Is it effective? Is it critical? How do we do all these things? Most of this narrative is not there, it is not given. But a lot that is discussed is devolution from the perspective of we want to be alone. Now, Don't we risk moving corruption from the top to the bottom? Don't we risk compromising our democracy, where whoever is in charge of the powerful province becomes the de facto president of the country, because they are the ones who can influence power fully? And don't we risk increasing bureaucracy unnecessarily, where we now have so many layers of government and so many areas where we have to pay civil service, all in the name of devolution? Now, I bring these things so that you are able to look at it critically and think more deeply about it, so that when we craft it and put it together, we've got something that is going to work for all our people. Now, okay, last slide. So, what do I think should happen? Particularly from an economic perspective in Bulawayo, we realize that, and we know that from economics, we've shown that trade is a fundamental methodology of ensuring that economies grow. So, isn't it better off if you trade with those people who are outside your boundaries and so on, who are most likely 99.5% more than trading within? How do we start pushing the ideas of trading with people outside Bulawayo, outside Zimbabwe, rather than focusing everything on internal energies? Another critical thing is, I think Osman highlighted this, they are very limited. Actually, I think there are many plans, very good plans that have been put in place in Zimbabwe, but very bad implementation. I don't think this is a national problem. I think this is a general human problem that we have. Planning is not easy, but implementation is even harder. Every day was 7, and so on. Most of us make those plans every time, but hardly any of us implement them. And suddenly we expect it to happen at the top. We need to develop a culture of implementation. We need to develop a culture of implementation where we do things that we plan to do, not at national level, but as individuals. And if we practice it so much as individuals, one day it will be the individuals who started this practice, who will be in government, who will do that. We also need to start practicing patience, something which I think has seriously left our society and has left us bankrupt from a trust and moral perspective, where we are very much interested in getting rich quickly. We're very much interested in getting rich quickly, and this has given way to speculation rather than investment, where everyone wants to make a quick buck and no one is interested in doing the hard work and learning that allows for the growth of an economy and the growth of a society. And as I've already said, the greatest power is cooperation, and would rather find as many ways as possible for us to cooperate than ways to divide ourselves. And finally, it is very critical for us to learn to love ourselves. You know, in Zimbabwe, it is so difficult now to be a Zimbabwean. Every time when you speak, people are trying to listen for which political party you belong to. You can no longer speak fundamentally as a Zimbabwean and speak of the positive and the negative things in an actual and debatable manner. So if we learn that we are also capable of doing things, we can also do many great things, and we push ourselves as a society to achieve and do those things.